Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Amanda and today we're going to be chatting through all the books I read in the month of August. I read a total of 14 books in the month of August, which is absolutely insane. I think that is my best reading month ever, I want to say. I do feel like I've actually read more books in previous months, but it's definitely a close contender considering that I'm working 40 hours a week. I seriously don't know how I found the time to read so much, but I definitely see that I'm reading more working than I was in college, which makes sense because I work, I get my stuff done, and then I go home and my time is my own. So let's go ahead and pick how I'm going to be doing my wrap up. So if you're new here, I pick a slip every single month, and whatever this says, I have to do my wrap up in that way. So for August is going to be organized by how much I would recommend the book, which is exciting. So that is how I'm gonna do my wrap up for August. So let's get into it. I'm gonna do some shuffling around of some books and then we'll come back and chat about them. So I'll be right back. Okay, I've organized the books, so we're gonna go from the one I would recommend the most all the way to the one that I would recommend the least. First up, we have Once There Were Wolves by Charlotte McConaughey, which I read for a Scavenger Hunt Picks my book video, which I will leave up in the cards if you want to go watch that. I went into this book not knowing too much about it. I knew that Kayla from Books and Lawn Love really enjoyed this book, and I was looking forward to reading it, and it just totally blew my expectations out of the water, and it was just so good. So we follow our main character, who is a biologist, I believe. She works closely with wolves and is a researcher, and she is part of a team who is bringing wolves back to Scotland because they have been extinct or at least very endangered for a very long time there, and so they're slowly reintroducing wolves into the area. But they are met with a lot of pushback from the people who live there, saying it's going to kill their sheep and it's going to ruin their way of life by having these wolves come back into the picture. And her and her team are trying to make these people realize it's a good thing, that it's a climate change thing and it's supposed to be a good thing. And there's also a bit of a mystery with our main character's sister, and we learn more about her, and there's some talk about SA in this book, so definitely look into the content warnings. But I just fell in love with this story. It was so captivating, and the writing style was just so hard to put down. It was just very gripping and beautiful writing, very beautiful writing, and had such good conversations on climate change and how that's affecting more than just people. It's affecting the animals, obviously, and that reintroducing animals into areas is helping with climate change by offsetting things. And it was just so good. Like, I feel like my explanation of this book is not doing it justice, and it does not sound like something I would like. It's very like literary fiction-y kind of, but for someone who doesn't like that nor reads it very often, I loved this a lot. So I gave this one 5 stars. I think this is one of the very few books I have given 5 stars this year. I truly have had a terrible reading year in terms of star ratings, but this is definitely one of the highlights for the year for me. I really enjoyed this and would definitely recommend. The audiobook was really good, and I loved this. Next up, we have A River Enchanted by Rebecca Ross, which is the first book in a duology. And I picked this book up because of my word search TBR, picked this for the quarter, and I loved this. Again, the audiobook is really good. I don't know if I mentioned, I listened to the audiobook of Once There Were Wolves, and it was fantastic. The audiobook for this is also super good. So in this book, we follow our main character, who is a bard, and he has not exactly been banished, but he's definitely left his home for various reasons that we find out later, but he's being summoned back by, I believe, the princess of this world to come back and to help them call upon the spirits to figure out where their children are going, because children, and I believe girls specifically, are being taken and they don't know where they're going. So we follow that mystery and we follow our main character, and the writing was just gorgeous in this book. It was so lyrical and lush, and we also followed some other characters who play a role in the story, and I was very entranced with the story. The mythology was gorgeous. It was just a very entrancing read, and I just truly enjoyed it a lot. I believe it's inspired by some sort of mythology, like Scottish or something. I could have sworn Lumacrate said something about that, but it's escaping me now, of course. But I very much enjoyed this and would definitely recommend. It was so good. I think I gave it like a high 4-star, almost 5. It was really good. Next up is one of the graphic novels that I read, which was The Cat Cafe, which I read on Hoopla, and I just picked this up on a whim because I just wanted to, and it made me cry a few times. It's so cute and really talks about a lot of struggles that people are going through, specifically like as I feel like a young adult, like in your like 20s, trying to like figure yourself out and go through the daily struggle of just being an adult. And it was just so cute and just so wholesome, and I just loved it. So like these little animals would go to this cafe that Cat owns, and they would just like talk about some of their problems, and there's like little mini panels where you would follow a certain character and you'd also watch them like grow and become like a better little critter, and it was just so cute. I would say become a better person, but there's no people in this story. It's just animals, and they're just so cute. Like, oh, there's just so many good messages, like believe in yourself, like you're doing so good, and like body positivity, and it was just so wholesome. That is like the word to describe this. So give this one 4 stars. Very much enjoyed it. There is like a companion to it that I'll probably read at some point, but I loved this. It was real stinking cute, and I would definitely recommend. Another one right under that, I just read like a ton of graphic novels, like kind of back to back. So the next one I would also recommend is Sheets. This one also made me tear up quite a bit. It was very wholesome, very cute. So we follow this girl who I believe is in like middle school or high school, and she's being picked on at school, and her mom has passed away, and she's trying to keep their family laundromat going, but her father has really been struggling with his grief and has basically just locked himself away in his room. He never really comes out. So the kids are just trying to take care of themselves while also running this business, and it's just super difficult. And then we also follow our main character, who's a ghost from the ghost world, and we get to learn about that. It was so cute. Like, death is like not cute. I mean, usually not. But the way it was depicted in this story just made it seem really peaceful, and the ghost, he gets accidentally taken to like the real world, and so now he goes to this laundromat and things go from there, and it's really cute. I definitely need to read Delicates, which is the next book in this series. I loved this. The art style is gorgeous. It's like the perfect kind of cozy creepiness that I was kind of looking for at the time. I'm really in my creepy mood right now. Like, I desperately need all the creepy, scary horror books, and I feel like I'm gonna be in that mood until like November, which I'm here for. But this was really good. I gave it 4 stars. It definitely hit really hard. Like, losing parents is something that I have nightmares about very frequently, so reading about it always makes me very emotional. So definitely be wary of that if you're like me and that affects you a lot, but I really enjoyed it though, and oh, that's just so cute. Next up we have Isola Volume 1, which I'm also going to pop in Isola Volume 2. I feel like I feel the same about these two, so they're kind of on the same level. So this is a comic series in which we follow a guard of the queen, and she's escorting the queen to find someone who can change her back into a person because she has been changed into a tiger. There's been some sort of magical accident that happened in which she was transformed into this tiger, and she does change like off and on throughout the comic series like back into a person, but it never lasts for very long, and it's usually because she's had an encounter with another magical being. So this is a very interesting graphic novel, and they also run into some people who want to cause them harm, and I like it. Like, I just feel like there's not much going on. Like, that's the plot that we're following through both of these, and there's no third one in sight as far as I can tell. So I can see this one kind of slipping off my radar and forgetting about it as the years will probably go by, and the third one isn't coming out anytime soon that I can see. But it was good. I gave this first one 4 stars. I gave the second one 4 stars as well. I mean, I like it good enough. I feel like it's definitely like a low 4-star for me, but it was enjoyable while I read it, but the details are kind of slipping from my mind already. Next up, I actually completed a series this year, which is exciting. I feel like I don't complete series very often, but I have. And I completed the Imperium trilogy, which is by Claire Legrand. This is the 3rd book, Lightbringer. I feel like this book, when you type in Lightbringer, is gonna get very confused with the new book called Lightbringer by Pierce Brown. Like, when I would type this book into Goodreads, it would bring me the Pierce Brown book. I'm like, no, I'm talking about the OG Lightbringer. This book. So this is, like I said, the 3rd book in the Imperium trilogy, and I have really enjoyed this series. I definitely feel like this is an upper YA series. Like, it doesn't read super YA, which I really like because, like I say all the time, I don't read YA hardly at all anymore, but I really enjoyed this. I think this was a very good conclusion to the series. It did feel a little long-winded. I definitely feel like this book did not need to be like 700 pages. I love these characters, I do, but I just don't need this much. Like, there was a lot of just traveling or reminiscing on things, and I'm like, we've done this in the previous 2 books. We've talked about these events in those 2 books. We do not need to be reminiscing. You know, we don't need to do that. So I did like this, but it just felt too long. I think I give this one 4 stars because it didn't feel like a 3. Like, I liked it, but it just wasn't like my absolute fave. Next up, another graphic novel that I read was Princess Ever After, which was for one of the Magical Readathon prompts. I think it was for the Library Cat Quest, so I just had to read this, and I got to get a key from a library cat, which was great. So this is a adorable little graphic novel. It's so short, and we follow this princess who kind of is resembling the Rapunzel stereotype, and she's trapped in this tower, and this knight, she comes to rescue her and goes off on adventures with the knight, and they kind of fall in love, and it's super cute. I loved it, and I gave it 4 stars. I just feel like the plot was definitely very minimal, and it was so short, so it was a 4-star for me. It was like a mid 4-star, but it was still enjoyable. Next up, we have Moon of the Crusted Snow by Webgeshik Rice, which I also read for my word search TBR. So this is a horror short book. I don't want to call it a novella. I honestly keep forgetting what the definition of novella even is, but it's definitely a short book. It's like not even 300 pages. Can you even see this cover? Like, it's so white, you can hardly see it. So we follow this guy. I feel like I've explained this book a lot in my vlogs recently, but to recap, we follow this guy and his wife and 2 kids, and he has just got a moose for sustenance for his family, and he's bringing it back to his family to eat, and things just slowly start getting weirder and more wrong on the reservation as time goes on. They lose power, they don't have satellite TV anymore, they can't use their phones, and things just get very strange. And there's also a group of white men who come to the reservation and just are acting terribly and are killing people and are just trying to exert some control over the reservation and the decisions being made, which they have like no right to do. And it's just, it was really unsettling. Like, I feel like that's definitely the word for this book. I didn't feel creeped out or horrified by anything in this book, but it definitely had a very unsettled feeling about it. Nothing ever felt right or comfortable, but I really enjoyed that. Like, I like feeling uncomfortable when I'm reading horror of any kind. This definitely felt like a social horror for me. It was definitely exploring that through this book, and it was very good. I really enjoyed it, and the audiobook was such a good experience. I talked about that a lot in my vlog, so if you want to hear more of my thoughts on that, you can watch my most recent vlog because I talked about it a lot. So I really enjoyed this. It was really good. I believe I gave this one 4 stars. It was great. Next up, we have 19 Claws on a Blackbird by Augustina Bastarrica, which is the author of Tender as the Flesh, which was one of my absolute favorite horror books of all time. So this is a recent release, and it is a collection of short stories that are all horrific in nature. And I did rate each individual story, and I was going to go back through and do like the average rating of what this book would be. And I don't know what that would be. I feel like it would hit between a 3 and a 4-star read because there were a lot of stories that were genuinely quite creepy, but there was also a lot that did nothing for me. They weren't creepy, they weren't scary. I just didn't feel anything towards them. So I feel like there was a fair amount of like 2-star reads and 4 stars within this collection, which is about typical for me. I feel like there's definitely a lot of stories that like I don't like at all, and there's quite a few that I do. So I believe I gave this one 3 stars. I gave it 4, I guess, on my list, but it feels like a 3.5 if I were to do that. But it was good. I definitely don't think this book has like super mass appeal. Like, you definitely will have to like horror stuff to enjoy this, I feel like, but it was interesting to say the least. Next up, we have A Snake Falls to Earth by Darcy Little Badger. I read this for Magical Readathon to read a book with Earth in the title, and I liked this one, but I definitely did not like it as much as Alatsue. So in this book, we follow a Lipan Apache girl who is trying to help her grandmother, who I believe is being like asked to leave her residence because they want to use the land for some sort of development. And so I believe that's part of it. I don't know. There's something with her grandma or something. And then we also follow our other main character, who is one of the original like animal people. And that was really interesting. I loved his perspective. He is a corn snake, and we follow him as he goes through all sorts of adventures, but then he ends up in like the human world, or like I forget what they call it. It's like the real world or something. I'm not sure, but he ends up there and helps our main character with the issue that she's going through, and it was good. I liked it. I liked how the 2 stories melded together, but I definitely did not enjoy it as much as Alatsue. I would still definitely recommend it because I love how Darcy Little Badger writes her stories. They are just so good and are just such a breath of fresh air compared to other books that are out there, like other YA type books. It's just so good, and I think I gave this one 4 stars. It's definitely like a lower 4-star. How many times can I say that? Like, I've said that for almost every 4-star read, but like truly, like I just don't think it's quite a 3, but it's like almost there. Next up, we have The Bronzed Beast by Roshani Chokshi, and the reason why this one is so low, it's not because I didn't like the book. I just feel like people haven't really read the Gilded Wolf series, so I just feel like I wouldn't recommend this one in particular very much because it is the last book in a trilogy. So that's why, because I did really enjoy this final book. I just don't think recommending the 3rd book in a series to you all is going to make much sense. So this is the final book in the Gilded Wolf series, and I very much liked how Roshani Chokshi wrapped this all up. We got a very satisfying ending. There was definitely a lot of heartache in this last book, a lot of tumultuous relationships, and I just didn't know how things were gonna go, and I very much enjoyed that. So this one, I believe I gave 4 stars. I have had a very 4-star heavy reading year, which I don't love. I mean, I guess everything I'm reading is like good enough, but not enough 5 stars. Anyways, this was great. I really don't have much thoughts about it other than I enjoyed it. We got 2 more books, and the last one is gonna be a very unpopular opinion. So, second to last, we have She Who Became the Sun by Shelley Parker Chan. I just didn't love this one a whole lot, and I just feel like I went into it with the wrong expectations. So I feel like that's why it's so low on this list. I think I would still recommend it. Like, it's still good. I just don't think it's quite what I had wanted. So we follow our main character who, after a tragic accident, her brother and father are both dead, and she decides to take her fate in her own hands and take the name of her brother and fulfill his fate as being like the greatest warrior of all time. And we follow her, and like the first half of the book was so slow and draggy, and that's what really brought down this book for me. I was just so bored. I didn't know what was going on. There were so many names that I could not keep track of. Like, I was curious if there was a glossary in this book, because I for sure could not keep track of all these characters. It does not look like there is, which I'm a little surprised by, because there were so many names. Or at least when I was listening to the audiobook, it just felt like there was a ton of names being thrown at you, and I just could not keep them all straight in my head. And there were so many politics, and so-and-so's fighting this person, and like I couldn't keep track of all that. And then by like the midpoint, there was like a romance being introduced, which I was interested in because it was like LGBTQ+, which I love to read, but it just didn't make sense because I didn't get why they were getting together. I'm like, I don't even know what's going on. So I feel like the reason why this book is so low is partially my fault for listening to the audiobook. I feel like that was a poor choice on my part, because historical fantasy is maybe not the best to listen to because there is a lot of things going on, and there's dates being thrown at me, and I'm like, whoa, 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 we gotta like slow it back a little, you know? So, I mean, I liked it good enough. I definitely think this book deserves a reread in the future, because I don't think I gave this book its proper chance. And the final book that I read in August, I have a very unpopular opinion about. I haven't seen like any negative reviews for this book, and I feel like I might be the first, and I feel kind of bad, but it's the truth. So I'm putting tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow at the end of this list. I don't really understand why people are so obsessed with this. It was fine. It was good-ish. Not really. I think good is too strong of a word. That sounds so harsh, but I just, why? Why were you all crying and screaming about this book? I don't get it. So in this book, we follow two characters, Sadie and Sam. I believe that's their names. I don't know. We're gonna roll with it. So Sadie is a programmer, and so is Sam, and they meet each other through being in the same hospital as kids, and they kind of grow up in and out of each other's lives, and then as adults they decide to make a game together, and they create this video game, and it leads to them having this company, and things kind of go from there. And I guess I kind of thought this would be a more, not really of a romance, but I just thought more things would happen between Sadie and Sam, and I kind of wish they did. So that was kind of disappointing. And then I just didn't love it. I just felt unfulfilled reading this book. I didn't get what was the point. Why were we following these characters? I just felt so unsatisfied. When I finished this book, I'm just like, why? What was this? What? I don't get it. Why was everyone screaming and crying about this? I get there was like some sad moments, but I just don't get it. And I do like Sadie. I really connected her being a woman in programming and IT. I feel that was me. I took 8 years of computer classes between high school and college. I get it. I was typically the only girl in the class. Like, it would definitely made things a little challenging because the boys would always be like, oh, you can't do anything. And then I'd be getting better grades than them. So I definitely feel that. But I just don't get what the point was. And I guess I don't necessarily have to have a point in books for me to enjoy it, but I guess I kind of do maybe. I don't know. I just feel like I was just missing a lot from this story. So I don't think I rated this very highly, maybe like a 2 or 3. I just don't get the hype. So there you have it. Those are all 14 things that I read in the month of August. I definitely am going to be slowing back my reading because 14 books was a lot. I was truly cramming them in. I definitely want to just kind of go with the flow with my books, and I have some exciting things in the works in terms of reading stuff, which you'll be hearing about in a little bit. But for now, that is going to be it. So if you made it this far into the video, comment some wave emojis in honor of this confusion. And I will see you all in another video soon. Goodbye!